The interstate system consists of over 100 different highways, all taking different routes around the country to connect cities, states, and regions. These highways attempt to work together to form the best connectivity possible, so everyone has one near them that they can use to get to where they need to be. And with this design philosophy, it has created some very unique and small routes that only serve one city and are widely unknown outside of it. So today I wanted to go over some of those routes that even I've never covered on this channel, because each and every highway in the system can be important in its own way, so learning about a few of these more random routes can be important to gaining a good amount of knowledge about the entire system. Before we get into that though, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We make geography content like this every week, and I'm really trying to get to my dream of 100,000 subscribers. So if you could help me out, simply subscribing would be really helpful. Thank you so much. So there's nothing bad for this list, and I'm actually very excited to be making this video because I get to look into interstates that I don't know much about. It could be a short interstate, a useless interstate, or a route with a weird number. Anything is on the table. With that, we can get straight into our first one with Interstate 229 in Missouri. So 229 is one of the best examples of politics driving freeway planning in the mid to late 1900s, and how it ended up affecting specifically Rust Belt cities. The highway is 15 miles long in northwest Missouri, located in the city of St. Joseph. This city, which has a population of 70,000 and has been stagnant or even slightly declining in population over the last 30 years, and it's struggling heavily economically. That fact is very important for this highway. So it comes off of I-29 in the south and takes a shot towards the city's downtown and Missouri riverfront. It reaches the industrial Riverside area soon after and makes its way north. In the downtown, it follows the river's coastline, stretching between the central business district and the river in a large viaduct. North of the downtown, it follows the bluffs away from the populated area, and instead simply takes a straight shot back to I-29. It then intersects with it and ends. Now your first question might be, why is St. Joseph, Missouri getting an entire interstate spur route through its downtown? Well, that is a wonderful question. Basically, back in the 1960s and 70s, St. Joseph's downtown area was beginning to decline and wasn't attracting the same economy it once was. I-29 bypassed the city, so there wasn't a freeway that was really helping it. The Missouri government then had the political pull to get an interstate planned and built, so they decided they would construct I-229 into the downtown in 1986 to bring the economy back to the area. The plan included a very controversial viaduct that blocked the view of the Missouri River from many downtown buildings, and in the end, it actually ended up bringing new development to the east part of town along the interstate rather than the downtown. With that, it was a complete failure, which has led to studies about how to fix the route. The two options they settled on would both require removing the viaduct, which would then remove the interstate designation, so the story of I-229 may soon be over. Next up, we move to the beautiful state of Georgia, where we find Interstate 575. This 30-mile interstate is the most obscure I found in the state, being located in the northwest part of the Atlanta metropolitan area. The highway branches off of I-75 in Marietta, traveling north from there through the communities of Woodstock, Holly Springs, and Canton. It then ends in Ball Ground, turning into an at-grade highway. It, interestingly, really doesn't travel through many large cities, or have a major purpose, which then brings you to the history and the reason it was built. See, I-575 was actually simply built as a suburban highway to prepare for the projected growth that would occur in the area. In 1979, they attempted to work ahead and be ready for the major increase in traffic, while also encouraging economic growth along exits for the highway. Somehow, though, they predicted far less growth than they actually saw, and the land was developed very quickly around the highway. This means I-575 basically caused its own traffic and now struggles with the issue. It's such a funny example of induced demand. Staying within Georgia, we have a 2-digit interstate, this being Interstate 16. Now, right now, you cannot tell me you knew I-16 existed, despite being a 116-mile route and being 2 digits. Interstate 16 stays out of any major city, and most people know very little about it. So the highway begins in Macon, the city in central Georgia. It then makes its way east or southeast through rural areas. It passes Dublin, Metter, Statesboro, and then it makes its way to the large city of Savannah, where it finally ends. So this route is actually very important to the state, being a major hurricane route. It was first used as a hurricane evacuation route in 1999 with Hurricane Floyd, where the two-way traffic was then turned into one-way traffic, using all 4 lanes to get people out of the evacuation areas. This has since been used for Hurricane Matthew, and most recently with Hurricane Irma. Next up, we move to Interstate 176 in Pennsylvania. So the Pennsylvania Turnpike is known by most, so the highway it spurs off of is a pretty major one. But I saw this highway and actually didn't know it existed, giving me a good reason to cover it in this video. I-176 is located in central Pennsylvania, spurring off of I-76 in Morgantown, and moving north through the hilly region of the state that is fairly rural. It passes through the communities of Plowville into Flying Hills, and finally ends at an interchange with US 422. This interchange is south of the city of Reading, so you can then follow US 422 into the city. This ends up being 11.3 miles long. So this interstate I found very interesting because of two things. The first of which is its route. The route goes through a pretty rural area between I-76 and Reading that was formerly actually pretty difficult to get through. It's within this area for its entire length. The second thing is that it doesn't really connect into Reading like everyone is using it for. You'd think if you made a whole highway to connect to the city, which is why it was built by the way, you'd give it a more direct routing into the downtown area. But no, instead you then have to take 2 extra interchanges to get into the central business district, which is much more complicated. Finally, we mentioned our only 1-digit interstate, which is Interstate 2 in Texas. So despite not being a spur route, I-2 works just like one. The 46-mile interstate comes off of I-69 east in the city of Harlingen in the Rio Grande Valley, and it then continues west through the populated area. It serves an important purpose to residents of the valley, then connecting into McAllen and being the main interstate route between the two cities. But after a brief stint on the west side of McAllen, the interstate promptly ends and continues as US 83, which is at grade intersections. As I said, Interstate 2 is an important route for the region, and is the best connection between McAllen and Brownsville. But it's very short for being a full interstate route that's 1 digit, not 3. The interstate was designated in 2013 when US 83 was built to interstate standards, and was part of a few new highways in southern Texas to be added to the system. The highway is then not actually meant to be this short, being an incomplete route. Interstate 2 is actually meant to stretch right up the Rio Grande up into Laredo, serving communities along the river like US 83 does. There's a lot of traffic that travels between these two clusters of population, as well as a lot of small towns along the river, so it's actually not a bad idea for a highway in the region that continues to grow and could use infrastructural improvements. I'm not sure if I-2 would then be extended past Laredo at some point in the future, possibly connecting up into El Paso or Fort Stockton. This would form a very complete map of highways in the state of Texas, but that would be for sure its ending place. And since the areas northwest of Laredo are much less populated, I wouldn't bet on anything. Either way, the extension is currently in study phases, and it's going to take a lot more planning, budgeting, and funding for anything to get approved and then constructed. It's a route that may never be extended farther, so for now it remains largely unknown. But that's all the highways I wanted to go over today though. As I hope I made clear in this video, all of these interstates have unique purposes and end up being important to their area. There are people who use these interstates every day to get to and from work or visit family. It just goes to show how intricate the system is. There are so many details and all of it comes together to form the absolute engineering marvel that we call the interstate system. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Bunny, Honoshukin, Brock Sanders, Stephen Priestman, SB Wilder, Florida Jake, Sir JC17, Alex Williams, Makita Martinoff, Kern Ainsley, Jerome McCall, KMS162, JL, Bryson, Rosebud 4, Darkbird, Wolfling73, Snyder Swine, Benjamin Whitings, Ryan Devins, and Hazev the Wolf. I appreciate you all so much. You really help out the channel. If you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. All of the money goes straight into my savings, so if you want to help me out in the future and you appreciate the content, this is the best way to do it. Thank you.